Okay, okay, great. Well, welcome everyone to the Hawaii Aquaculture Tech and Research Brown Bag, sponsored by NELHA and the Hawaii Aquaculture Collaborative, which is facilitated by UH Grant. I'm Jean Schneider, representing the Sea Grant team, and Ray Nguyen is our co-host at NELHA. The recording and slides of today's session will be archived on the action page of our website, where you will also find previous sessions and other resources. So that's hiaquacollab.org. Let me just admit more people here. Here we go. And just a couple of announcements. So Sea Grant has announced a funding opportunity for research and projects focused on improving the efficiency, output, and profitability of commercial aquaculture businesses. In these types of businesses. The letter of intent is due on January 17th, and please go to seagrant.noaa.gov/funding for more info. Also, we are scheduling our Tech and Research Brown Bags for 2024. If you have an aquaculture problem you'd like to solve or topic to explore, please contact us. I believe our January 10th slot is open, and in February, we will have USDA speak about quite a few resources available for aquaculture producers. Let's see, and getting to our main event today, that's why you guys joined. Many of you know Jim Wyban. He is a serial entrepreneur, a scientist, and innovator, and deeply committed to supporting and growing ag and aquaculture technologies in Hawaii. He is behind the commercialization and globalization of the SPF shrimp industry and one of NELHA's early success stories. Jim is an invaluable member of the Hawaii Aquaculture Collaborative Steering Committee, and really I'm just scratching the surface on what Jim has been accomplishing, but he's here today to share his wisdom on SBIR funding opportunities. So welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Jean. Can we switch to my screen share, please?
Yes. Let's see. How do I don't have a stop. Let me go to stop share. Can you just go ahead and click new share on yours? Click share and that will.
Okay. There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, Doug. Thank you, Jean, for the nice introduction and the invitation to make this presentation. The Small Business Innovative Research Programs are sponsored by various programs at the federal government level, and it's an excellent non-equity source of funding for both startups and innovative companies. Today, I'll present an overview of the SBIR programs that are relevant to Hawaii aquaculture companies. Priorities within these programs are to improve production efficiency, protect against disease, and ensure quality farmed seafood. Studies on commercial species of fish, shellfish, and aquatic plants from both freshwater and the marine environment are included. I am a lifelong scientist, innovator, entrepreneur. I founded and led the company High Health Aquaculture, which was based at NELHA and was the world's first SPF shrimp breeding company. Over 18 years of operation, I received 9 SBIR grants from 3 separate federal agencies, plus the state's SBIR program. And those grants contributed mightily to the development of high health aquaculture. The non-equity grant money was, of course, vital to our business development. But more important, or as important, was the intellectual exercise of preparing the SBIR proposals made me a better entrepreneur. So today I'm going to go through just a brief review of the significant programs that aquaculture can look at, aquaculture companies can look at. And then I'd like to finish the talk with a little bit of Q&A if anybody has any specific questions for me that maybe I can answer. Okay, so how do I get my, there we go. Okay, so let's see. SBIR is Small Business Innovative Research, and all of the federal agencies that have money distribute money through SBIR programs. So there's literally dozens of these programs at the federal level. They're restricted to small for-profit business. Nonprofits aren't eligible. And the beauty of this, the amazing thing, is that the money you receive is a grant. There's no equity transfer. It's not an investment. It's a grant. And so you receive the money and it's yours. And that's just incredible. Okay, so here's sort of the three-phase scenario that all of the SBIR programs follow. The phase one is the idea generation, and that's somewhere like up to $200,000 grant. And the duration of that is 6 months, which is an incredibly short time to get a meaningful data set in science. It's very difficult. And so one word of wisdom is have some of that data already in hand before you even start the program. You get started, because if you only start once they give you the go ahead, getting a good data set in phase one is very difficult. 6 months is just not a lot of time. Phase two is the prototype development and or commercialization, and those grants can be up to $1.5 million with a 2-year cycle. Okay, so some of the nice words about SBIR here. It's intended to transform scientific discovery into products and services with commercial potential and or societal benefit. It's specifically for small businesses in the creation of new disruptive technologies. And third, it can enable application of research advancements from conception into the market. Okay, so why should someone apply for an SBIR grant? The reason is it can provide seed funding for innovative technology development. There's no repayment required. It's not a loan. It's not dilutive capital. Dilutive means that you have to give up equity. It's neither of those. It's a grant, which is amazing. And in addition, the small businesses that receive the SBIR grant, when you develop technology within your company using that SBIR funding, you own in entirety the intellectual property for the development, which is super cool. And that can include, going all the way through the patent process and patenting that technology, and you, the small business, own it. And the feds have no claim on it at all. That's really quite fantastic. Another factor is receiving SBIRs is a great precedent for asking for more money from other folks like VCs and strategic partners. It gives you recognition. It verifies that you're a person of substance and know what you're doing. And so having the successful SBIR in your pocket is a very positive thing when it's time to speak to VCs or others for money. Okay, let me get this out of the way. This is a new thing that I haven't been involved in previously when I was doing the SBIR projects. It's called TABA, which is Technical and Business Assistance. And this is actually extra money from the feds that if you're successful receiving the SBIR grant, this money can be added on top of that. So say your agency has $100,000 cap for the budget for the phase one SBIR grant, and you make a budget for the full $100,000, you can add on top of that this TABA assistance, which will give you an additional increment of money to pay a consultant. And the consultant, they have companies who are already signed up and you get assigned to them, or as I've illustrated here, you can take some money from the feds above and beyond what the budget is for your project and pay a consultant of your choice. And so the limit for that in phase one for all these programs is $6,500, and the phase two grant, TABA, can be $50,000 to pay this outside consultant to help you. And I think this is a way of upgrading your business, your proposals. You know, if you have a hotshot person on your advisory team, you know, in this capacity, it may improve your chances of success. So we're talking about aquaculture today and aquaculture opportunities, and I'm aware of at least 4 federal programs that sponsor SBIR grants to the aquaculture space. And 3 of them, USDA, NOAA, and NSF, I was successful in, so I know quite a bit about those. The 4th one that I haven't done, but other Hawaii companies have been successful with, is the Department of Energy. And so I list that there because aquaculture fits in there too. We have examples of that in Hawaii. So here's some of the deadlines for those projects. You have NOAA is right around the corner for their SBIR thing. So if you're only thinking about this today, you're probably too late for that one. You need to be really pretty far along in the development to get it to ready by December 20th. NSF is an interesting thing. They don't have a deadline. They don't have a specific due date. They do it on a rolling schedule. And basically with them, you submit a project pitch. It's like a letter of intent. And if they like what you say in your pitch, then they will solicit you to prepare an entire full proposal. And that's on a year-round basis. You can submit that anytime, 365 days a year, to NSF. USDA operates on a more traditional basis. They have a deadline. It's always in September. Next September 20th is about the date. The date hasn't been set yet, to my knowledge, for 2024, but it'll be right around September 20th. And finally, DOE has a deadline of October 10th. And October 10th was the deadline this year. I don't know what it's going to be, but right around that date in 2024. So if you're thinking about doing an SBIR proposal, there's some things to get out of the way right away. And they're listed here. First, your company needs to be registered on the sam.gov website all the way to the point where they assign you a numeric called UEI, and that's a unique employer ID or something like that. I don't know what the acronym is, but that's quite a lengthy and fairly complicated process, getting registered on the sam.gov website, but it's mandatory. You can't submit a proposal without having that done. And so if someone is interested in doing an SBIR proposal, that's the first step. Go sign up and get going on sam.gov. And I'm telling you, it's going to take a couple weeks or more to get the bugs worked out and get it exactly right. It's a challenge. Once you have your company registered on sam.gov, then you have to go register on the grants.gov, which is another federal website. and is sort of the portal for all the proposals going to the federal government. That's the place where you will submit your SBIR grant, but you need to be registered on that in advance to do your submissions. So you have to get that out of the way too before the due date arrives. So those two things are important first steps in the process of doing an SBIR grant. All of this is done in Adobe, PDF format. The RFAs are all in Adobe. So you need to have that functional on your computer or your cell phone or however you do these documents. You do it with Adobe. Then you find the RFA for the specific program you're interested in, and that's just a simple Google search, like if you want USDA SBIR, just type it in Google and it'll take you right to the USDA page. And finally, it's advised that you contact an authorized organization representative from the program that you're interested in. I think this is a good idea. They're usually listed in the RFA from each of the agencies, and you can reach out to that person and tell them you're submitting, but it's not mandatory. Okay, so I know most about USDA because that's what I did my most grants. And so that's what I'm going to talk about first. So this is the USDA programs. The phase one, they call it a demonstration phase. It's limited to 8 months in duration. The maximum funding is $175,000. And that project the proposal will be due. I said September 17th because that's what it was this year. The solicitation hasn't come out yet. So it'll be somewhere middle of September. The phase two proposal, they call the commercialization phase, and you're only eligible for phase two if you were successful and won the phase one proposal and completed it in good fashion and submitted a report. Then you're eligible to do the phase two. So that turnaround is quite challenging because you're doing the phase one, you're finishing up, you're writing that up, and you're writing the phase two proposal. You're kind of doing those things all together. So it's really a challenge, but people do it and get through it. And the phase two proposal is for 24 months. And in USDA, that's up to $600,000 in money. So I mentioned the agency representative for USDA aquaculture. His name is Tim Sullivan. Here's his email. Here's his phone number. It would be really good to reach out to him if you were going to go after a USDA SBIR. Tim would be a good person to bounce that off of, maybe your topic, but he doesn't really give you any technical feedback. He just makes sure that you understand the process. Okay, so this is the listing of the SBIR USDA goals, and it's pretty quick. Develop new technologies, expand the domestic aquaculture industry, focus on commercially important fish, shellfish, and aquatic plants. And this can be for USDA, either freshwater or marine environment. They want to improve the efficiency and competitiveness of commercial aquaculture. A big area is protecting aquaculture species against disease. It's a never-ending problem. And last item is to ensure the quality of farmed seafood in the United States. When you go to the USDA program, they actually articulate a series of research priorities, and I've got those listed here on this slide. As you can read, it's reproductive efficiency, genetic improvement, integrated animal health, improved production systems and management strategies, and finally, algae production systems. And I think anybody working in aquaculture can somehow fit their program and interest into one of those areas. That's a pretty broad situation at USDA. Here's what the outline for the actual proposal is. I believe you're limited to 25 pages. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's a 25-page limit. All of these start with this SF 424 is a federal cover sheet form that you fill in. Then the project narrative, which is the most words you'll write are the narrative of why you're doing it. Then you include number 3 is if the proposal has been submitted and rejected and it received review comments, which is you will receive back very detailed review comments from your proposal. Then if you resubmit that, you have to include those comments and your comments on what the reviewers said about your thing and how you fixed that. So that can be really a powerful exercise. And for me, a couple of my proposals got funded the second time around. I submitted the proposal, it got rejected, I got the reviews back, I understood what the reviewers were saying, I incorporated that into the new proposal and resubmitted it like the following year, and then it was successful. So that's a viable method, is that it could take a couple years to get the funding, but you need to address those review items if it gets reviewed. And then carrying on the idea of the problem, the background rationale, relationship with R&D. This is like sort of in-house R&D that you've done that supports why you want to pursue this as an SBIR project. What the technical objectives are, the work plan, which is like a workflow diagram, it can be Gantt chart, whatever. Related research is more the literature review, what other people have done in this space that has created this opportunity. And then finally, the market opportunity, which even though it is last on the list, may be the most important thing, because what these people are looking for in the SBIR program is not just a gee whiz, super cool intellectual exercise, but they're looking for projects which will create a solution to a real world problem. That's what you're trying to find, is you're trying to find a solution to a real world problem that then has commercial market and opportunity. Okay, so this listing is I just went to the USDA website and grabbed the last couple actual Hawaii-based aquaculture companies, successful SBIR projects with USDA. These were the titles of those projects, and I just put them up here to illustrate the kinds of projects that are being funded by USDA SBIR. So breeding and improvement for the Asparagopsis, control of reproduction in Kampachi, innovative manufacturing aquaponic raft for a commercial farm, monosex culture of mahi-mahi. These were all successful, funded SBIR projects from the USDA to Hawaii companies. This graphic is kind of interesting. I was working on this as we were talking about our strategic planning for Hawaii aquaculture industry. And the question that came to me is, do we have enough innovation in Hawaii in aquaculture to, rationalize more government funding and VC attention? So I went and I downloaded all of the USDA funded SBIR projects and manually went through and sorted them into two buckets, which were agriculture, so that's like field crops, people working on corn and and whatever, traditional agriculture type things versus aquaculture, which were easy to identify, like the titles that I just read to you previously, and downloaded them and then did some statistical analysis or financial analysis of how much money and so forth and the counts. And it turns out that over the course of the SBIR programs at the federal level, they started in 1986, and Hawaii earned their first SBIR grant in 1988. So 1988 to 2022, aquaculture outperformed agriculture in SBIR in any way you wanted to measure it. The number of successful grants, the number of phase 1 grants, the number of phase 2 grants. But this graphic shows the money received. And for both phase 1 and phase 2, aquaculture outperformed agriculture. And I thought that was quite interesting because, when you look at the scope of and scale of these two industries, agriculture is, a ginormous legacy industry in Hawaii. And, there's an entire Department of Agriculture at the state level, which has, quite a large payroll, a lot of people. You have the College of Tropical Agriculture at the university, which is a huge program working on agriculture, again, College of Tropical Agriculture. And, and then the state has the Department of Agriculture. And you put all that together, and it's a huge resource in agriculture. And yet, aquaculture, we don't even have a Department of Aquaculture, although it's about to be resurrected within the Department of Agriculture this coming year. Anyways, just the folks, in the aquaculture industry doing their thing, they received more money from the USDA SBIR than agriculture. And I might add that, aquaculture also gets money in 3 other federal programs. So the monies here would be much larger if you included all the programs. So I say kudos to the aquaculture industry. You folks are doing a great job in innovation. Okay, so jumping to the next program, that was USDA, and that's the most obvious one for aquaculture. But here's another one that's a big supporter of aquaculture, NOAA, which is also the source of funding for the Sea Grant program we're talking about. And so NOAA has a big aquaculture initiative, and their SBIR program, like the others, are organized in 2 phases. They call their phase 1 proof of concept. And the process for phase 1 in NOAA is you should deliver to them a letter of intent, although that is optional, not mandatory. And then their full proposal for the phase 1 proposal to NOAA is December 20th. So it's right around the corner. If you aren't a long way into it already, it's likely you couldn't finish it because it's a big job. And then the NOAA funds are 175,000 phase 1, and phase 1 lasts 6 months. Okay, then the phase 2 NOAA grant is again identifying that only phase 1 winners are eligible. and it's intended to expand on the results of the phase 1 project towards commercialization of the technology. Their phase 2 is up to $650,000, and it's a 24-month cycle. Okay, another program that funds aquaculture is the NSF SBIR program. NSF is a little different than NOAA and USDA in that they're don't have a specific due date. They, in fact, run their program on a rolling submission year round. And basically, you have to deliver to them a proposal pitch. And I'll get to that in a second. NSF, there's no match required, just like the other programs. They don't require you to put in any matching funds. NSF, the current phase 1 award caps at $175,000 and the phase 2 at $600,000. Phase 1 is 8 months. Phase 2 is 24 months. So those amount of money and the interval are quite similar among all of these. The NSF SBIR proposal pitch is listed here, the content of it, 4 sections. The technology innovation you're advocating, the objectives and challenges for that, the market opportunity, and then the company and team. And that's a great 4-point exercise, that NSF proposal pitch. If you can use this as the place to organize your thoughts for your SBIR proposal and get it to these 4 items, you could then do any proposal, by cut and paste. These are really the 4 big issues that you need to resolve in terms of making your case for your SBIR proposal. So I would say take heart in this. These are really 4 very good targets. NSF SBIR for the aquaculture component, which is what we're talking about today, sits in the subtopic of biological technologies. NSF has a long list of subtopics, and I listed a few of them: BT1, BT2, BT3. That goes, I think, to BT20 or something. So there's a lot of stuff, but they specifically list aquaculture as BT2. And I'm going to tell you what they want from biological technologies, disrupt chemical, agricultural, and medical products and services to produce the new bioeconomy. Breakthroughs will boost productivity in industrial and agricultural processes, improve human health, and advance environmental sustainability. Biological technology projects use living organisms, systems, or biological processes to develop new technologies to produce biochemicals, medical, and agricultural products. And the areas that NSF is looking at are genomics, proteomics, drug discovery, instrumentation for biological applications, computational and bioinformatic tools, and new manufacturing technologies for cells, tissues, organs, and biologics. And by biologics, they mean shrimp, fish, limu, whatever. Okay, this one is the DOE SBIR, and this one I know a couple of the Hawaii aquaculture companies have been successful in the DOE solicitation, and these are sort of the key dates and information for the DOE. You first submit a letter of intent. I have the 2023 dates here because that's all I could find for DOE, but these systems work on an annual basis. So for 2024, they're going to be pretty close to these dates. So that's why I put this in here. But basically, your full proposal for DOE funding is in October, mid-October. next fall. So this is a good one to think about right now. That would be quite a good target, is to letter intent in August, full proposal October 10. The area where you're going to find aquaculture likely in the Department of Energy is in the Office of Biological and Environmental Research. These grants, the DOE, are a little bit bigger money because it's energy. And so the phase one is 200, but phase two goes all the way up to 1.1 million. So that's really quite a lovely goal to get a phase two DOE, 1.1 million. Wow, fantastic. And again, like the others, phase one is 6 months, phase two is 24 months. A little bit of bad news that I wanted to point out today, just to be clear and that everybody understands what's going on and no surprises. The Congress changed the tax code in about 2020, and it adjusted how you account for R&D income and R&D expenses. And it turns out that they no longer allow you to directly expense R&D in the year that it occurs, but instead that you have to amortize it over a number of years. And this is problematic in the SBIR program because you get the payment in one lump sum, and then you're going to do the work in the next 6 months, and so you're going to spend all the money and generate all the costs, but you can't deduct that from your tax, from your income, because you have to amortize those R&D expenses over several years. And I'm not a tax attorney, so don't expect me to explain this in perfect clarity, but this has significant implications for your taxes. And there's lots and lots of companies that are lobbying the federal government to try to get back to the old system where you could expense all your R&D expenses in the year that you received them. So it's a little bit of bad news downer, but I didn't want to finish on that. So I'll finish on some really good news. And the good news is the Hawaii SBIR program, which is a fantastic enhancement to the federal program. And this program is administered by the state agency HTDC. And HTDC grants to Hawaii companies a matching grant for your SBIR grant that can be up to 50% of the amount of the federal grant. So what's required to receive this HTDC Hawaii SBIR grant is that first you have to be awarded a federal grant, and then with that award in hand, you can get the state grant. But in my experience, wow, the state money, it came in a, kind of 6 months later after the federal phase one grant came in. Then you got the state grant about 6 months later. And it was really fantastic because it filled in some pukas that occur because there's a gap between the phase one funding and the phase two funding. And in my experience, the Hawaii SBIR filled that gap in really nicely. So that's a beautiful thing, and it's a very easy application. You basically have to give them, you fill out a form and you give them the letter from the federal agency awarding you the grant, the grant announcement that you've been received from the agency, and you submit that to the state, and they give you 50% of the federal award. So it's really cool. And another aspect of the state is that if you are successful receiving your phase one grant, the state will reimburse you for money spent preparing the grant application. That is, if you hire a consultant to help you write the grant proposal, you can recover the cost of that grant writing consultant from the HTDC SBIR program. So that's a very cool thing. But you only get that money if you're successful with the SBIR proposal, if you get the grant. Okay, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And it's the SBIR story as best I can say. And I would be happy to take any questions now where I can answer questions about these issues. And have at it. I'll answer as best I can.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jim. That was a very comprehensive explanation of those opportunities. Does anyone have a question for Jim? And I see that Chair Hurd, thank you for joining us. There's a comment in the chat. She says, thank you, Jim, for the 600 level course in the SBIR. SBIR program is considered one reason the US maintains our innovation edge in world markets. Have heard that SBIR program takes a garage project to the next level. Oops, sorry about that. Next level request is for nascent projects that intend to increase local food production to consider applying. Hawaii needs to replace imported seafood. Thank you, Sharon, for the great comment.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, anyone else have a comment or question? Let's see, Charles says some of the DOE topics were just released last week. They split the topics into 2 batches. If you are working on BT, then summer is probably right. Many energy related topics are out now.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. And Jim, do you know, like there's all these different opportunities. Is it okay to apply for multiple ones? You know, like
Oh,
your
yes,
same
absolutely.
project? Okay.
Absolutely. But you have to, you can't just boilerplate copy it over and over again. You have to identify in the forms that you fill out if this proposal has been submitted to another agency, and tell them specifically what agency and when. And that if it's just a simple duplicate, they're not going to award, you're going to be eliminated if the first agency awards it. So they're not going to fund duplicate projects, but the concepts can be recurring. Say you're working on Kampachi reproduction, and there's a million issues there. You could have one point going to USDA and focusing on that, and you might have something else going to NOAA. So if they were complementary, that's okay. But if it's a complete duplicate, you can't get them funded by 2 agencies. They're gonna stop that.
Thanks, Jim. And then you mentioned, technical and business assistance, and that SBIR has a bunch of them. I guess you can access from any of those websites that you were talking about. But do you know if there are anyone locally offering that kind of consulting services for SBIR applications and for aquaculture?
Well, we can kind of do that. High Plan and or me can do that. We haven't made it a thing. I don't advertise it or anything, but I would be willing to do it if somebody had an interesting project and they thought that I could help them. So that's the one that I am aware of. The agencies have contracts with companies that you can be assigned to. Those are mostly mainland companies, and work directly with one of those companies that has a contract with the agency. But if you wanted to work with somebody locally, basically how I would do that is have a conversation. And if it's a project that interested me and we could come to some understanding that this is really a cool project and you want help, I would consider it. I could help, if I can help, if I know anything about the subject, but I do kind of understand the process. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
So.
thanks, Jim. And then I think other resources, like Neil Sims from Ocean Era, Ron Wiedenbach from Hawaii Fish Company, I think Symbrosia also got one. So there are companies that regularly get those awards currently. Yes, yes, in addition to Jim's success. But any other questions for Jim at this time? All right, hearing none. Well, Jim, thank you so much. You're such a wealth of information, and that was a very comprehensive explanation of those different funding streams, and we very much appreciate you sharing your wisdom today.
Thanks a lot, Gene. I enjoyed it. Thanks
Oh,
for having me.
great. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for attending, and hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and I will see you next month. Aloha, everyone.
Aloha.
Mahalo.